Shalom, everyone, and welcome to the House of Selah Ministries as we continue in the series of the deep dive into the book of Hebrews. This lesson is sponsored by the House of Selah Ministries, created by Minister Yakanina, Prophetess Yamuna, and Brother Andrew Bradley. This is lesson 22, and we are going to do a quick recap of what we talked about last week so we can fully go into the next piece with understanding so we don't get too lost. I need people to stay focused because we're getting in deep into it now so we can understand what we've been talking about, which is what's beyond the veil, right? And according to Hebrews. So last lesson, we talked about what is the way of the tree of life and who is the tree. And as we continue, we're going to talk about that. But we finished the last slide here. And we wanted to clearly define who is this tree. We spoke on how John 1:1, Yahusha is the word. John 14:6-7, Yahusha is the way, the truth, the life. And what is the way? Psalms 119:1, it's Torah, the law, right? Ecclesiastes says that the Torah is life as well. So we know if Yahusha calls himself this, then he's also speaking of himself as the law or Torah. And then we talked about defining what trees represent in the scriptures. And we showed that Psalms, a couple of verses, Psalms 52:8 depicts trees. Proverbs 3:18-20 says wisdom is a tree of life, right? Then Paul tells you 1 Corinthians, Yahusha is Yahuwah's wisdom. And wisdom is a tree of life. Then Colossians, another Paul letter, says all things were created by Yahusha. Then we see in Revelation 22, Yahusha, the tree of life that heals the nations or the 12 tribes. How do we know that? Because we talked about how the 12 fruits on that tree represents the 12 tribes. And they produce leaves that heal the nations who were declared sick. The sinners, the lost people of Yashar. We prove that in Scripture as well, right? And you see a little bit of that in Matthew 9. So we know that Yahusha is the tree of life. And so far we understand that. And Torah is the way of the tree of life, or Yahusha. So now we're going to build this. We're going to prove this further and build upon this. There's more to what I've said here. This is not the full picture. All right? So if there's no questions and we're ready to get started, we'll go ahead and start the next lesson.
Let's go.
All right. Let's go. Let me get this window out my face. 1 second. Screw the hell there. All right. So we're wanting to understand, when did we lose access to the Ark of the Covenant? Remember, we talked about how what do you say it? There was a word, reconsecrated, right? Yahusha reconsecrated our access to the Ark of the Covenant through the veil, right? So we need to know then, by default, when did we lose it? And we know it started in Genesis 3. So since we know Yahusha is the tree of life, let's prove that. Let's prove that. I'll be the first reader. Revelations 2:7. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Ruach or the Spirit saith unto the churches, or the body of believers. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of Elohim. So this tree of life is in the midst of paradise. All right? We call it the Garden of Eden. At the time when Adam lived, it was the Garden of Eden. Trust me, it was paradise.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the kingdom. Don't think of it as a garden with a bunch of trees. This was a kingdom. It had everything. Everything. It was paradise. So Genesis 3 tells us who was in the Garden of Eden. So we can prove who this tree is, since we've already said it. But I'm going to prove it further. All right? Any adds or questions here? My first reader, I'm going to have Minister White read Genesis 3:8-10. Again, who is the tree? Yahusha. Let's prove that. Revelations 2:7 is the tree of life is in paradise. Let's read Genesis 3. Minister White's favorite chapter in the whole Bible.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite. Thank you for calling on me. All right. And they heard the voice of Yahuwah Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahuwah Elohim amongst the trees of the garden. And Yahuwah Elohim called unto Adam and said unto him, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself.
Thank you, Minister. Listen, why would Adam say, I heard thy voice? Why didn't he just tell Yahuwah, I heard you? We have to think of things like this, right? So Adam heard, all right, he heard the voice walking. That's one clue. And then he heard the voice in the garden. He didn't say, I heard you speaking. He said, I heard thy voice. What's great about translations is that we can always see if we can find something that just makes it a little clearer. We're going to read the same set of verses in the Targum, Onkelos. The Onkelos is, Targum is a translation. Onkelos is this type of translation, and it's an Aramaic translation. Aramaic predates Arabic. Aramaic is a sister language to ancient Hebrew. It's almost like you would see how Portuguese and Spanish sound today. They're very similar. They're sisters, or Portuguese, Spanish, and Italian have a lot of similar words, similar pronunciation, similar rules. That's how Aramaic is. So if you want something that's translated very close to what the Hebrew will be more originally translated from, look at the Aramaic. Mm-hmm. The Aramaic dates back to the 2nd century also. So all of the English translations, it predates all the English translations. It does not predate the Greek Septuagint. The Septuagint is around 200 BC or older, a little older. But that was done by the Greeks. This was done by, most likely, people who lived in the region and from the region of Yashar. Mm-hmm. These were written by people of the region, the Targum, not the people from like Rome or the Western Europe. All right? So let's take a look at the Targum. And Minister White, you mind reading this version?
Yes. And they heard the voice of the word of Yahuwah Elohim walking in the garden in the evening of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from before Yahuwah Elohim among the trees of the garden. And Yahuwah Elohim called to Adam and said to him, Where art thou? And he said, The voice of thy word heard I in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I would hide.
All right, I believe I might have a number typo. Let me make sure. But just to tell the audience, yes, I'm sorry. It should be 8 verses 8-10 here, not 6-8. I apologize for that. I'm not sure how I did that, but just letting the audience know it's the same verse count. I just accidentally put 6-8, so I apologize. It should be 8-10. Now look how this one reads. This Aramaic translation. It says, "I heard." Or they heard the voice of the word of Yahuwah. So now the word has a voice. That's different. That's very specific. No one will argue who the word of Yahuwah is. No one will argue. The voice of thy word heard I in the garden, in paradise, in the kingdom. Thus, paradise is the kingdom of Yahusha. Why? Because that's where he dwells. And in his perfect kingdom, if he dwells in that kingdom, in that paradise, or in that garden, as we call it, you better believe it is holy. It is a set-apart place. This is no compromised, middle ground place with the ins and outs. No, This place is set to his law, his Torah. So this was a holy of holy places because he dwelt there.
Mhm.
So Adam had a very high place. So as Minister White said, what was shared that would cause Adam and Eve to give up so much? I don't know, but they gave up a lot. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to ask if you could go back where I can look at I think that was the KJV version, the first one you showed us. Was that KJV?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes,
want to
ma'am.
look at that just as a comparison.
I'm sorry?
The reason I wanted to look at it is because I was looking at the KJV plus, and it reads a little different. May I read it?
Mm-hmm.
It says, "And they heard the voice of Yahuwah Elohim." Let me slow down. "And they heard the voice of Yahuwah Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves." Is that the way that one reads? No, it reads the same way. Okay, I take it back. I'm mistaken.
It's kind of hard to understand a little bit too, Minister, just to let you know.
Oh, thank you. I thought it read slightly different when I was looking in the KJV plus, and there was something I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to highlight, but no, I still see it. Can you hear me clearly now?
That's better.
Okay, yes,
That's better.
I do see it in this version as well, so there's no need for it. Thank you anyway.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hmm.
You're welcome. So we see then that it was Yahusha in the garden walking. It was Yahusha they heard. So this is Yahusha's kingdom. This is his place. This is his paradise. This place is his. And he gave it to Adam to dwell in. All right, to have dominion over it. Right? Adam, meaning man, male and female, not just Adam. And people like to try to throw that nonsense out. Get it out of here. Both of them had it. Right? Everybody wants to say Adam is that man's name. Adam is the word for humans, all right, mankind in Hebrew, not a male's name named Adam. That's a westernized ideology or westernized thought. That's not Hebrew. So it's clear, right? We know that Yahusha was there. So we're gonna, if there's no questions or any clarification needed, we'll go ahead and move to the next slide. All right, let's move to the next slide. Mm-hmm. What's up, bro?
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm just waiting on a specific verse to pop up. That's all I'm waiting on.
I probably don't have it. If it don't come up, yeah, I know it won't be on the next slide either. You may try to share it. If you see lesson step, well, darkest the lesson stepper watcher, we'll get you. We'll get you. All right. So let's summarize what we have so far. I have to keep you focused. There is a ton of going back and forth and adding so you can see the big picture. So you're going to see summaries over and over again. I need to keep you all together. So what is this tree then, right? Or who is this tree? The way of the tree of life, we've already talked about it, is Torah, revelation, commandments. Why do I have it bold? What contains all three of those? We'll show it. You don't have to answer. We'll talk about it. All right? The tree of life is in paradise, like we just talked. And the voice of the word of Yahuwah was in the garden, paradise. The word of Yahuwah is Yahusha. Yahusha was in the garden from the beginning. Yahusha is the giver of life, which we just spoke of in the summary. Yahusha is this tree of life. The tree represents a person that's standing firm, right? A tree is a symbol of strength. The roots go deep, and within its roots grows the branches of the tribes and the fruit that they bear. all based upon that powerful and well-rooted tree. And what is that tree rooted in? Life. What is life according to Scripture? We've already talked about it. The Torah. So Yahusha is the tree of life in Genesis. And the Torah and the revelation and the commandments or the covenant, the Ten Commandments, the covenant as well, is the way of Yahusha, the tree of life. Keep that in mind. Do we see it so far? And are there any questions?
I have
Those
one.
are questions I assume you get.
What I have one question,
Yes.
and it's not
Yes.
pertaining. It's pertaining to the direction that you're going. Before I make a comment and get accused of stepping, are you going to highlight where it says we how no it says when did we lose access to the ark? Not when. It says we lost access to the ark of the covenant, right? And you said it was in Genesis 3. Are you going to prove that the ark of the covenant existed in Genesis 3? Are you going that direction?
Mr. Wayne,
Huh?
that's more than stepping. That's putting clown shoes on and stepping.
Listen.
Oh my God.
That's like the greatest example of stepping we've had in a long time, man. At least if you go keep going, if you don't stop.
I'm done. I'm done. I have been crowned lesson stepper. Okay.
Without even really doing it. But boy, you will go there if we don't stop you. I can see it. I can see it. Let's flesh it out and see if I do a good job of it. And if you got to add, please do, Minister. Because it's important for people to see this.
Absolutely.
That's important.
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Oh my God.
Yes. No, go ahead.
No, just a simple way of saying this. So Yahusha is the tree of life. And his way is Torah, revelation, and commandments.
Correct. The way of the tree of life is the Torah, revelation, and commandments. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. What's up, brother?
I was going to make a comment about the lesson itself as a whole. One of the reasons why I like this lesson
That is shed must be light on the oldest sin ever and the first one committed is simply the act of being disobedient.
Mm-hmm.
That just plain label was the first actual sin of itself. The first act of being disobedient. And it's awesome. I like it. Appreciate it.
Oh, bless you. You just don't know how exciting this lesson has been for me to make. I be trying to contain what I learned. Oh, my goodness. All right, so let's move to the next slide and talk about, just to do a visual representation of the tree of life. I like this visual representation. AI made this for me, by the way. So, who is this tree? We know it's Yahusha, the tree of life. And you see, coming from that tree is the water of revelation. And then you see the way is Torah going to those stones. You see the stones, right? Is the way of Torah. The lively stones. These lively stones here have access to the tree of life. These aren't just regular stones. These stones are a path. And the only path to Yahusha, is his priest, the priesthood, his holy nation, right? So those stones, I'm getting to it. The stones, who are they? So I love this picture. I didn't even tell the AI to put the pathway there. It put the water for revelation, like I asked, but then it added a stone path. And I was like, ooh, that's perfect. Because those stones must have revelation. They must be in line with the revelation, the Torah, the water of life that comes from the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And to get to this tree, you must be able to follow this path.
And
I was going to say that path, each one of those stones is scripture. Because you must walk in Torah. You must walk on the scriptures. You must walk it out. So each one of those stones is a scripture. That's how I live. I feel like when you're walking it.
Mm-hmm.
It's your faith.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Minister, I heard you.
I was going to say he took my answer, but I was going to say that those stones represent the way. Just as he said, each stone represents the scripture.
Mm-hmm.
The stones, that path is called the way to the tree of life. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we're talking about right here too.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, Peter says this. Peter talks about these lively stones. He talks about it. These lively stones are us,
Mm-hmm.
the priesthood, and the priesthood is the way. You can't come to Yahusha without being taught. Didn't Paul say that? How can you learn or know without being spoken or taught to a priest?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be taught. And who else is going to know the way to Yahuwah or to Yahusha? It's by those who have been taught by him.
Mm-hmm.
His priests, his holy nation. 1 Peter 2:5. Ye also, as lively stones, are built up a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, for us spiritual sacrifices accessible to Yahuwah by Yahusha the Mashiach, the tree of life. So we are a pathway to Yahusha. Those who are becoming the priesthood, the royalty of Yah, are the pathway. We can prove this. There's other scriptures that speak to this. I got two of those that I'm going to share with. Does anybody have anything they want to add?
And even just to add to that, when you go down further in 1 Peter 2, it says that we are chosen. We are a chosen generation, to a holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. So that even plays into this scripture as well.
It does, Sister Sarah. And you know, the sad part is the church will sign it to anyone that just believes in Jesus, but they don't do what we teach. Look where they're quoting. What is Paul and Peter saying? And why are they saying it? Where are they getting it from? Why would they take the words of the prophet and reassign it to a people that it's not his, when the word was originally spoken to a people? That's blasphemy. That's a sin in itself. Look at like Yah making a promise to someone. Oh, they do this, don't they? He made a promise to someone. But yet you're going to say it to somebody else later. Just because you want to be in it. That's what the church does. All right. Anybody else?
Here's another question, and I'm leery of asking it, but I'm going to ask it cautiously. What I want to know is, did you already mention anything about the kingdom yet?
That is too broad.
Ah,
I don't know.
in these past couple of slides, did you mention anything about the kingdom of paradise or Garden of Eden? Did you mention that? And are you going to if you haven't?
I mentioned a lot of off and on. I'm gonna tell you, just go with it. Hey, jump off that diving board. Come on.
Okay. Well, people might ask the question, why do you say that the kingdom was in paradise? People might ask that question. And they will ask you, how do you know? I want to give them scriptural reference. They can find the answer. They can find the answer to that in Luke. If you're not going that direction, it's in Luke. Luke chapter 4. So when Brother Andrew is saying about the kingdom in paradise, and we lost access to the covenant. You'll have to know that it existed in paradise. And the proof that it existed, you can find it in Luke chapter 4, verse 6. It says this, and the devil said unto Yahusha, unto him, all this power will I give thee, and the glory of them, for that is delivered unto me, and to whomsoever I will, I give it. That's the KJV version of it. But what I want to do is read to you another version of it to see if it can highlight what I'm trying to give to you. Because in some versions it says all these kingdoms. So in another version it says, and the devil said unto Yahusha, I will give all this authority and their glory to you, because it has been delivered to me, and I give it to whomever I wish. So you may not have that version, but there are a couple other versions that are out there that mention these kingdoms. So the authority is the right to rule these kingdoms. But I want you to notice how Hasatan is saying how he received them. He says that these kingdoms were delivered to him. They were transferred to him. When did he get them? He got them in Genesis chapter 3. In Genesis
and
chapter...
we'll talk more about that later on once we get through all this heavy stuff right here. But that's a good ad, Minister. I like that.
All right.
No, we haven't spoken to it like that yet. Okay. And it'll be a while, so I won't accuse you for a lesson, Stephanie. That's a good ad. That's a good one. Anybody else? So let's prove that Yah's people, his priesthood, are the way to him. And I'm just going to use 2 verses. We won't dig too deep, just 2 verses. Sister Sarah, would you read these 3? The lively stones, the pathway to Yahusha?
Yeah. John 4:22. We worship, you know not what. We know what we worship. So salvation is of the Yahweh. 1 Peter 2:9. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should spew forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Zechariah 8:23. Thus said Yahuwah of hosts, in those days it shall come to pass that 10 men shall take hold out of all languages of the nations, even shall take hold of the skirt of him that is a Yahudi, saying, we will go with you, for we have heard that Elohim is with you.
And brother, I guess we can't let Sister Sarah get away with this. She lesson stepped. I didn't realize it. Yeah, but she lesson stepped. I apologize, y'all. We didn't know.
She can have my hand.
Thank you, Sister Sarah. Now, these are just 3 verses that point to where he says, John says, telling the lady that you don't even know who you worship, but we know. Why? Because salvation is of us. So how are you going to get salvation? It comes from us. That's what he was saying. And then Peter is telling you that this is the royal priesthood. We are the peculiar people. So a priest is the one that does the service in the temple and the service before the veil, the Holy of Holies, which we've been talking about this whole time, and the Ark of the Covenant. It's the priest that work in the holy place. Right? So to get to that place, you can't be just a regular person. You have to be of the priesthood, and only one people qualify for that. One. And then he tells you that people are going to seek his people out. knowing Yah is with them. Elohim is with them. Does that make sense? So a lot of these stones are Yah's people. And that's always been his design. It's always been that way. He chose a particular people to do a particular job. We're supposed to be this way. We're supposed to be his truth. We're supposed to be. We're the one that screwed this up and put ourselves in this position. Mm-hmm. All right. Any questions? Everybody following so far?
I gotta add though.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dig against Christianity in the church. We all see from the get go in Genesis 3 that Yah keeps his word. He said, "Eat of the tree, you shall surely die." If you cast it out, right? Didn't Adam and Eve eventually die? Yes. Were they put out of the garden? Yes. So my question to the Catholic Church is, if Yah has kept all his word all this time, then why would he pass laws and then Yah will rewrite and accuse the Messiah to come down here to end the law? Makes no sense.
That's been an argument I've been trying to make for a long time, brother.
I mean, his cards are right there. You see his cards. You know he's not lying about the cards. The hand he's going to play. And then he said, if we disobey him, we broke the covenant, I'm going to scatter you to the four corners of the world. What did he do? I'm going to put you in the land of people you know not of their language. What did he do? I mean, everything. Deuteronomy 28, that lets you know he keeps his word. But the Catholic Church cherry picks. It was, oh, no, he doesn't. He puts the nail of the cross. Where's that in the scriptures? It's not in there. They make up these fairy tales just for inclusionary tactics. Makes no sense. That's why he chose the people and he kept his word. So his word is eternal. And call the Messiah a lie. So he's the word. Makes no sense.
It don't make any sense when you're in the truth. That's for certain.
Also, just looking at these scriptures, that's why it's very important in this day and time that we continue to stay on the right path. Even the Zechariah scripture saying how there will be some that want to follow us, to figure out, we want to go where you are going. So it is so important that we stay true to it. We stay true to him and we stand and we guard his word as he's requested us to.
That's 100%. So true. This path is narrow. And falling off of it, you risk your life. Because if I was Satan and I saw somebody fall off the way, I'm going to do my best to never let them get a chance to get back on it.
Mm-hmm.
And if that happens to be killing him while he's out there, that's exactly what I'm going to try to do. He's not out here to take his time.
That's why it's good. We are supposed to be different. We're not supposed to be like everybody else. So, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
We're supposed to be the light to this path.
Exactly.
Yep, we are the candle on the hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are the salt of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So, anybody else?
I go ahead and bust it out, brother.
Okay. Oh, you're talking about Adam. Adam is the Adam and Eve?
Yes, sir. I go ahead.
Make sure you give a description so people will know.
Yes, sir. So, for the sake of the audience, this scripture that this is coming from, is coming from the first book of Adam and Eve. The church, specifically the Catholic Church, does not see it canonical due to it not having so quote unquote biblical ties to the Old Testament, but it has accurate storyline of with what took place in the garden and even after, and everything in this account is accurate to what happened along with Genesis all the way to Revelation, along with biblical prophecy of the Messiah and the behavior of Adam and Eve. So, to prove that the Word, as Brother Drew is presenting on the lesson, how he said that the Word was walking in the garden, in this book, it explains on multiple accounts on who specifically the Word was and how he was sent multiple times to Adam and Eve to comfort them and take care of them. For an example, I think this is chapter 20 and verse 1 and 2. It says, Yahuwah said to Adam, I have ordained on this earth days and years, and thou and thy seed shall dwell and walk in it until the days and years are fulfilled, when I shall send the Word that created thee.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the Word? He's talking about it this whole time. Yahusha, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, and against which thou hast transgressed, the Word that made thee come out of the garden and that raised thee when thou was fallen. Yeah, the Word that again will save thee when the 5 days are fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
So he was giving a parable that 5 days and a half was 5,500 years, resembling the reign of Mashiach, the end of the days, the tribulation, Jacob's trouble, so on and so forth. So this book does nothing but verify and confirm everything that's being presented due to the specification of who the Word is and who it was in the garden with Adam and Eve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a cool find too. And it's so sweet. They'll say that, but the reason the church does those things is because they don't have the Ruach to see anyway. They don't want to see. They don't want to see. That's a great add, brother. If it wasn't for me being this part in the verse, in the lesson, I could have added that as context, but I couldn't. But you adding it during the call was good enough. It was good enough. Thank you. Anybody else?
I want to land back on what brother
I'm sorry.
I want to land back on what brother Gianni said in referencing to.
Mr. White, we really can't hear you well.
Can you hear me now?
You still sound distant.
Really?
Am I the only one, everybody?
No, she sounds. Do it up a little bit, Minister. Come on.
I'm on top of it.
There you go.
That's better, but
Is that better?
go ahead, Minister. That's better.
Okay. I just wanted to give some food for thought, and that is, it says in the book of Adam and Eve, the word that created thee and against which thou hast transgressed, the word that made thee come out of the garden and that raised thee when thou was fallen. If it was the word, and I'm saying it is, I'm agreeing, that created us, then what were we? Living epistles. Because we are from the living word. So, so that meant that before we fell, we were living epistles. We were walking words too. We were walking words junior, if you want to call it that, because of whom we come from. That's how far we have fallen.
That's absolutely true, because it also says in the book that the cherubim in the garden, they feared and trembled at Adam and Eve. They trembled at them. But since we have fallen, now we tremble at the angels because our flesh doesn't recognize them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Very important. We don't understand the state of what we once were. Somebody may need to mute too. There's a lot of background noise, or wind, or something.
An airplane jet.
All right.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. All right, so let's continue because I really want y'all to see this. What we've been talking about. So, if the way of the tree of life, Yahusha, is the way, if the way is Torah, then the way is revelation. This is all that we covered last week, right? The way is revelation. The way is the covenant, the Ten Commandments. The revelation is manna. The covenant is the Ten Commandments. The way is the rod, which is the restoration or the way to life, right? And the way is the lively stones we just talked about. Thus, what is really the way of the tree of life? What has been talking about that contains the rod, the manna, and the Ten Commandments? The ark. The ark, yes, sister. The ark of the covenant is the way. Why? We just said the Torah was the way, right? Well, what does the ark contain? What is the ark? A container, right?
Mm-hmm.
It contains the way. It contains the way, the truth, the life. And who are Yahusha's ark? His people, the lively stones. They are the ones that have the covenant. They are the one that has been restored. They are the one that has the revelation. They are the one that carries the Torah on their hearts. That's part of what we've been talking about in Hebrews, right? Yes. So the way of Yahusha is his people. As Minister White just said, epistles being read by men, just like Paul talks about. We are living epistles. We are literally his walking containers of his will and way, his glory, his life. We are it.
Mm-hmm.
And think about it then. You want to know how extraordinary this really is. You got to get this. Yahusha thought this was so important of us having this state of being, to being in this condition. He loves this so much that when he started to teach it to his people again in the original covenant, right, with Moses, he put it in a place that only one person can see every year, once a year. Anybody else he'll kill. He coveted that position, that condition so much that he put it in a place to teach his people the value of that state of existence. What he wants in us, he found it that important. That he put it in the Holy of Holies. And then said, you better not cross if you even could. The only one person, the high priest, and he had to prepare himself quite thoroughly. Quite thoroughly for this to happen. This is extraordinary. This is so important to Yahusha. Do you understand this? The significance of this? Yeah. The value he has in us?
Mm-hmm.
How precious we are? That's why he says we are his silver and gold. His precious stones. What love? You really want to know love? My goodness. Bless him. I just seeing this, people, and understanding what we lost, as Minister White said. What love did Adam and Eve have in their garden, living with this type of experience? We were indeed examples of him. Because if I'm going to write something on something, it's going to be a mirror image of me. It's going to be a whole lot like me. I ain't worth nothing. So I'm not Yahusha, so I can only imagine, right? This is extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
This is extraordinary. Any adds to this?
In the book, you come across how Adam and Eve fell into this great depression after realizing what they lost, knowing that they couldn't touch it, they couldn't go around it, they were stuck on a strange and foreign land that they couldn't recognize. They were heartbroken, realizing that what they couldn't get back was actually the source of their life. They pleaded, they cried, they cried and cried and cried and cried and cried for a very long time to get that land back. But you know what?
They did.
He said, "You forsook my law and you forsook my commandments. I told you not to go to that tree. You recognize the fruit," because he told them, he said, "I showed you all the other fruits on the other trees. That one had a particular fruit and you still ate it. You knew what it looked like. You knew not to go around it, but you did." So now, depression.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. I can only imagine the devastation where all they had to do was keep the garden, or like I like to call, keep the kingdom, right? And they had everything at their hand. And when they lost everything, they literally lost. They hit a reset button. But they didn't start all over at their current level. They went to level 0. They went from infinity to negative zero. If there was a possible number. They lost everything. So can we prove then? Can we prove what we've been talking about? Let's prove by examining the ark. Let's talk about the two scriptures that we've been talking about, or been basically talking on off and on. The way of the tree of life is the ark of the covenant, right? We've been talking about that. But so let's compare what we've been talking about. We said in Genesis 3:24, the cherubim guarded the way of Yahusha, right? The tree of life. Genesis 3:24. So he drove out the man and he placed at the east of the garden of Eden cherubim, which is plural, meaning more than one, and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. All right? And then cherubim covered the ark of the covenant. You see the similarities. Exodus 25:18-19. And thou shalt make two cherubim of gold, more than one, right? Of beaten work shalt thou make them in the two ends of the mercy seat. And make one cherub at one end, and the other cherub on the other end, even of the mercy seat shall you make the cherubims of the two ends. And that mercy seat went over the ark, right? You see the similarity. You have to think of it. You have to see it. And if the cherubims covered the ark, and the cherubims guarded the way, and the way is the Torah, the revelation, the covenant, and the ark contains the Torah, the revelation, the covenant. Then you know, right? The way is the ark of the covenant. Do you see that? We're getting there, right? I'm not losing anybody.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you going to talk about the other cherubim?
The other cherubim.
Yes.
You talking about the other one? Not yet.
So
I won't do that until I finish the mercy seat.
Okay.
So that's quite a long way. That's quite a long way. But I know exactly where you're going, and we're going to talk about it. But I don't know. I wanted to hold off on that So we'll get to it, but I wanted to do it further down.
Okay.
You see that?
Well, check your text to see if that's the direction you're going.
Yeah, I will be talking about
Okay, thank
the
you.
other church.
All right.
Definitely. Yeah, very important to know.
Yeah. All right.
And I had a question for you about that one too, because I had one of those revelations about that. You know how the word is. You be at work and it goes through your head and you rehearse it. And next thing you know, you're like, oh, I did not realize that. But it's still too early to call because no one's up but you. That's what happened to me today. So I'll see if I can remember the question for you later.
Sure.
All right, so I'm looking on time. We got a few more minutes. Let's take a look at the next slide. So, questions. What was covered by the cherubim? The ark and the way of the tree of life, right? Both of them did that. They covered the ark, and then it says it covered the way. What was in the ark of the covenant, and what is the way? We just spoke on it. So, what did Adam and Eve really lose access to in the garden? They lost access to the covenant Messiah, to the ark. They not really. No, bro. I thought so too, bro. I thought so too. But Minister White made a statement to me. Then who followed them in the wilderness? True. But I was telling brother, it was like many different levels of the Messiah. Like once they did what they did, and they lost access to the garden. We no longer walk with them. That he presented himself in a different way. I'm thinking like a different level of exposure. He had to change himself. He had to change how he presented himself to them, because once they lost the access to the garden, their physicality and spirituality stepped down. They were a lesser being. They were, and he could not interact the same way with them. But they knew who he was. They knew who he was. Because if they did not know, Moses would not have known, and Paul would not have wrote up. So they knew. And the punishment and judgment that we see in the Exodus was so sharp and harsh. Why? Because they were literally taught by the word in the wilderness too. So I agree. It wouldn't have been it's reasonable to conclude, right, to say that their experience, the experience that they had with Yahusha in the garden would not have been the same for those outside the garden. It wouldn't have been. It's very reasonable. So they lost. So think about this. Now let's look at the next slide. I want to compare the way of the tree of life and the ark of the covenant. So you can see that we've been talking about the same thing. The ark has two cherubim on the mercy seat. Cherubim guarded the way. The ark holds the rod that produces life. Yahusha is the rod, the root, the tree that provides life. The ark contained manna, bread. Yahusha is the bread of life. The ark contains the Ten Commandments. Yahusha is the Torah, word of Yahuwah. The ark was in the Holy of Holies. The way was in the garden where Yahusha dwelt. You're not going to get a more holy place than that. That's paradise, right? The ark contains the covenant, the way. And the way is the covenant. And Aaron served as high priest to the covenant in the old, right? According to the Ark of the Covenant, the original covenant. And Adam served as a priest in the garden. Genesis 2:15. You see how they are parallel. I got this up here so the audience can see the way of the tree of life is the Ark of the Covenant. All right? Everybody follow?
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you one more time. What did Adam really and Eve really lose? What did they have in the garden other than just, they had the covenant, but what did it provide them?
The way you protect.
Oh, I'm sorry. Say that, Sister Sarah, first.
The way, the tree of life, Yahusha.
That's what they lost access to. But what was that you, Brother John? Yeah. What did you say?
It stems down. Queenship, kingship, inheritance, reward, spiritual power, spiritual gift, authority, rulership.
Yeah, they lost all of that. Yeah, they definitely lost all of that. That's true. That's a whole hunk of stuff, right? They did indeed lost everything. But I want you to see it this way. They lost a state of existence.
Mm-hmm.
They lost eternity. They lost immortality.
Mortality, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They lost a state of existence man has not known since.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Because they now died. They were committed to death once they did this. So they know by default they had eternities. We don't know how old Adam and Eve were when they made this choice. But I know they weren't children. They weren't babies. They weren't just born. Could have been thousands and thousands of years. All we know, they were not originally made to die. So they gave up an existence. They were exempt from the influence of time. That's exceptional. There's more to it. I don't want to go too crazy on this. All I want you to understand is that they lost eternity when they made this. That meant by default they lost their state of existence. So when they cried all that time, probably the whole year at least, they had to deal with the fact that they lost a state of existence as well. They lost eternity. You understand?
Yes.
Let's destroy that. And that's it for tonight. We're going to end it here. Are there any questions?
Mm-hmm. I think we're good.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you hanging in there. This is some provoking stuff that Paul brings about out of us with this type of language he uses in the letter in the Hebrews, right? So please hang in there. We're going to continue to build on this, where we're going to start talking about more of what the ark is, the way is, the cherubims, and so on. We're going to get into all of that, and the mercy seat. All right, the mercy seats and the crown and so forth. We got to get into that too, because all of that means something. So join the House of Selah next week as we continue in this series, building on what the ark is. That's the part we're on in the book of Hebrews. So we thank you all. Please, when you view this, share it with those who you believe will enjoy and learn. Like and subscribe. We thank you and Barak everyone.
Shalom.